Good evening. I'd like to call the Peoria Public Schools District 150 Board of Education meeting for May 12th, 2015 to order. Would you please call the roll?
Here.
Here.
Here. Here. Would you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening and welcome this evening. We're going to start out tonight with awards and recognition, and we're going to have our recognition of Peoria's finest teacher.
Good evening. I'm sure you're all thinking Lana will be here, but it's me tonight. I get to be the representative. I'm Valerie Ray, and I teach at Valeska. I'm also a union rep for the area vice president for the Manual region. And Lana, like I said, usually does this, but we have our own meeting tonight, so I said that I would come and do this because I was the nominator of our award today, so it worked out. Peoria's Finest Teacher is a monthly recognition that we are sponsoring for those members of the PFT that go above and beyond, exemplifying best practices in teaching and our reach out to community and parents to be involved in our schools. The teachers in this district work so hard to serve the children and families of Peoria each day, and we want to showcase this positive effort. We want to thank our winner's principal, Katie Powers, and our sister principal, Vera Smith, any faculty, friends, and family that are here in support of our winner. Our nominator, which in this case is me, would like to say a few words to let you know who our winner is today. And our winner is, our Peoria Finest Teacher is Julie McGrath from Valeska Hinson. Thank you so much. Julie actually has been playing hurt. She hurt her arm this spring, but I only missed like 2 days of work, I think. But she's got her sling off, so I wanted to make sure I didn't shake hard. The reason that we wanted to nominate Julie this year, or this May of 2015, is it's her last year, her last May. She is retiring after how many years, Julie?
36 total teaching years.
Yeah. And my name was on the form, but her whole primary team, which is 3 kindergarten teachers, 2 first grade teachers, their aides and assistants, encore teachers, which are like, in my case, the people who help out and do the extra things. We all knew that she needed to deserve to win this award before she went out. And we joke, we eat lunch every day together, and we joke and we call her the old wise one. Whenever we have questions about children or behavior or even personal life, whatever it would be, she's always there with a very calm, supportive approach, and just fills our bucket with love. At Valeska, we fill buckets we always make sure our children are filling our buckets, if you've read that book before. And Julie always fills our bucket, and I've never ever seen her lose her cool, and she just is always very compassionate to us as teachers and to the children and to parents as well. So we just wanted to make sure she had the honor and let everyone know what a great teacher she's been and how much we've learned. It definitely will be, her seat at lunch will be missed next year. So you want to say anything?
Thank you. Well, this is a nice honor, I must say, to Dr. Lathan and the board members and my colleagues, my family and friends, and I have a couple former students here tonight. But as teachers, we know that the children are our greatest investment in the future. And so it's a challenge every day that keeps us pushing forward. But we do it with enthusiasm, and we wouldn't be able to do it if it weren't for our camaraderie. And so I thank, the board for your support. I thank my friends and my family and my colleagues, and again, the PFT for this award. Thank you.
Congratulations on behalf of the board, and enjoy your retirement. It's well-deserved. Enjoy it. And again, thank you to the PFT for doing this once a month to help recognize some of the many, many, many great teachers we have out there. Great and dedicated. Thank you very much. Are there any announcements by board members tonight? Mr. Bateman?
Although we traditionally think of the summer months as carefree and relaxing, the reality can be a time of stress for parents and students. Parents, especially those who work or attend school, need activities for their children that are safe, age-appropriate, healthy, and reduce the academic summer slide. For many of the families we serve, the loss of a school-supplied, nutritious breakfast and lunch threatens parents' ability to provide their children's most basic needs. As you can see from the display, the district is expanding its reach to students over the summer by not only offering the activities it provides, but also by also reaching out and partnering with community agencies that are located throughout the city of Peoria. A complete list of these partnerships is available on the district website, www.psd150.org, by clicking on the Food, Friends, and Fun icon located under Site Shortcuts. During the summer of 2014, the Summer Meals Program provided 5,488 breakfasts and 5,292 lunches from 8 school sites and the Peoria Housing Authority using just 2 food delivery vehicles. For 2015, we are projecting the number of meals provided to increase to 25,000 for breakfasts and 50,000 for lunches. These meals are provided to children 18 years old and younger under the USDA Summer Meal Program, and the district is reimbursed by the state for each meal it serves.
Thank you. 25,000 and 50,000. Wow. Mrs., okay.
The displays on the back wall represent many of our seniors who are accepted to a college or university. If you'll look behind you there, you'll see all those hats back there. Some of our seniors were accepted to several schools, and acceptance letters is represented by the hats that I just referred to. The black hats with the high school colors on them represent the students from Manual, Peoria High, and Ridgewoods. Some of our avid students throughout the district also wanted to share where they hope to be accepted once they get closer to their senior year. And the blue hats represent our kindergartners and 4th through 8th grade students at our average primary and middle schools.
Okay.
And congratulations to all of the seniors, and best wishes to the rest of the students as they pursue their dreams.
Are there any other announcements, Mr. Cloyd?
Yes, thank you. U.S. News and World Report today published its 2015 Best High School Rankings. The new Best High School Rankings, which are available only online, are produced in conjunction with RTI International, which is a global nonprofit social science research firm. With today's launch, U.S. News has published detailed information on more than 21,150 public high schools, including school-specific data on enrollment, student ethnicity, location, school type, and results of state assessments, as well as advanced placement and international baccalaureate tests. And we need to offer our congratulations to Richwoods High School, which ranked number 75 in the state and number 1,831 in the United States with today's report. And that's great news for my alma mater. Number 2, I got to put that in there somewhere.
Did you give us that $200 check for those things?
No, but I'm going to do that. I was not able to do that at the meeting there, so I will take care of that. I promise you, I will be good for that. On April 29th, I attended the Deidre Purcell Collins Mathematics Awards program for 7th grade girls. It is produced and put on by the District 150 Foundation. They had the award winners from each of the schools there, and I think there were about 27 or 28 young ladies that were represented and recognized. And then they had a panel of women whose careers involved or started with their mathematics education and background. It was very well done. It was sort of charming, and I got a chance to talk to some of the students about their goals, and I encouraged one of them at least to attend the University of Illinois. So get that plug in there too. But it was a really well-done event, and I think it was really exciting to see the kids that were there being recognized and to make sure that young women understand that there's an opportunity for them in the hard sciences where there's so many needs for that type of talent and experience in those careers. So that's number 2. Number 3 is on May 5th, I attended the Central Illinois presentation on the Illinois Health Initiative strategies. It was sponsored by the Greater Peoria EDC, and it talked about the role of various community organizations and what they can play in terms of the health climate in Central Illinois and the need for improvements in that. And we talked about what role the schools can play in part of that. And I think there's a real good understanding of the need for collaboration among all of the public bodies that deal with health, not just the health department, the whole health center, but all of those that deal with health issues, because that is fundamental to having a population in our schools that really doesn't have to worry about issues, that they can concentrate on their education as well as their families. So it was well done, and I thank them for that opportunity too.
Thank you. Any other announcements? Okay, seeing none, we'll go on to district presentations. Tonight we have the math counts recognition. Ms. Gobine?
May I add that Ms. Gobine was the moderator of that facility, and she was her usual reserved self. So.
It was fun, though. Okay. All right, good evening, board, Dr. Lathan, President Wolfmeyer, members of the audience, friends and family. It's an exciting day to be a math student. See, yeah, it always is. But anyway, on a really cold Saturday in January, about 100 of our middle school students did math all day. Is that amazing? So they get a round of applause for that. It was our 23rd annual Math Counts event, and it's held at Lindbergh Middle School. So for those of you that are unfamiliar with Math Counts, it's actually a national competition. We have kind of a fun, local warm-up competition in exactly the same format, so that the kids are ready for the Bradley event, which is our local chapter. And then winners go to the state and national competitions. So Math Counts comes in 3 rounds. There's a sprint round where the kids have 30 questions in 40 minutes with no calculator. Then there's a target round. There are 4 groups of questions that target specific critical thinking and problem-solving skills. Then there's a team round where the whole team gets to work together and collaborate and have conversations and reach team consensus. And so we give lots of prizes. It's a fun day. They get to eat lots of food. And we give lots of prizes at the end. So I'm going to start with the round winners. So we give a winner for the sprint round, the target round, and an overall individual champion. And so our sprint round champion, this person can do math really fast without a calculator. It's Julie Ann Moser from Lindbergh Middle School. Our target round champion, a great problem solver, can really zone in on those critical thinking skills, is Montrell Thomas from Harrison Community Learning Center. And you'll hear his name again. An overall individual champion was Carson Phillipson from Mark Bills Middle School. So those were the top 3 individuals. Then we give another fun award. It's called the Best of Team. So this is the one team member on every team that scored the highest combined scores in the sprint round and in the target round. And so I want the mathlete and the coach to come up when I call you. So the Best of Team for Mark Bills was Carson Phillipson, coached by Kimberly Smith. I know. And then Calvin Coolidge Best of Team was Kate Ulrich. She's coached by Michelle Kuby and Tyler Patton. Harrison's Best of Team, Montrell Thomas, coached by Michael Regali and Eric Roche. Lincoln's Best of Team, Jemiah Bonds, coached by Tammy Shue. Lindbergh's Best of Team, Ethan Payne, coached by Jeannie Williams. Manual Academy's Best of Team, Logan Hills, coached by Stephanie Dare. Rolling Acres Best of Team, Charlotte Stone, coached by Beth Purse. And Roosevelt's Best of Team, Laven Landrum, coached by Tom Jakowski. Sterling's Best of Team, Anthony Farrell, coached by Rachel Keenel. Tree Wind's Best of Team, Samaria Hollins, coached by Lindsay Perry. And Von Steuben's Best of Team, Miguel Rios, coached by Sean Bro. So congratulations to all the best of teams. And then last but not least, we give the top 4 teams in the district. And so I'll go from 4th all the way down to 1st because I have their traveling trophy to present to the 1st place team. So our 4th place team in the district was Harrison Community Learning Center. Coached by Mike Regali and Eric Roush. The members are Joey Bohm. You guys can come on up, Harrison. Joey Bohm, Haley Kramer, Aurelia Gomez, Chris Lisenby, Fernanda Mendoza, Giselle Ochoa, Gabby Ruiz, Montrell Thomas, Manuel Mendez, and Roberto Mendez. Congratulations, Harrison. Do you need one? All right, the 3rd place team, Mark Bills Middle School, coached by Kimberly Smith. And the mathletes are Isaac Galindo, Brandon Hyde, and you guys can come on up, Joshua McNeil, Ethan Mullen, Aposi NJ, Carson Phillipson, and Ethan Talbot. Congratulations. And the 2nd place team this year was Lindbergh Middle School, coached by Jeannie Williams. And the team members are Nate Knox, Julianne Moser, Ethan Payne, Amir Taher, and Caitlin Torbyfill. All right, and this year, the winning math counts team for the district, Rolling Acres Middle School. Coached by Beth Purse, and the mathletes are, and you guys can come on up, Tevion Albert, Elijah Carter, Graylin Erdman, Julianne Lardizabal, Evan Locke, Livy Piper, Erica Pulitzer, Grace Post, Charlotte Stone, Angeline Sevungsa, and Mackenzie Stevens. Congratulations. is a really old traveling trophy, and it has 2015 Rolling Acres Middle School district champions. Congratulations. And I would like to acknowledge any of the friends and family, parents. Please stand up. Let's give them a round of applause for supporting their mathletes. And school administrators, please stand up. Thanks for your support as well. And congratulations, mathletes. Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations to all of you for all of your hard work. We appreciate it. That brings us to approval of minutes for the April 27th, 2015 meeting. Could I have a motion and a second?
Second.
Would you call the roll?
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. We are now at audience opportunity to address the board. As a reminder, this is a business meeting of the Board of Education held in public, not a public meeting. It is not a question and answer session, and it is not a debate, so there will be no response from the horseshoe unless one of us has comments once the audience comments are completed. Recognizing everyone's First Amendment rights, we still ask that you refrain from speaking about subjects or topics relating directly to district personnel and also those not germane to the Board of Education's authority. We also ask that you refrain from using inappropriate language and keep a civil tone to your remarks. When you are recognized, please come to the podium and give your name for the record. Each speaker is limited to 3 minutes. No one under 18 years of age may address the board unless accompanied by a parent, guardian, or a teacher without the consent of the majority of the board. Board members are also available by phone and/or email. This contact information is available on the district website and in the school calendars that parents receive from their school. Sharon Cruz.
At the last meeting, Mrs. Wolfmeyer acknowledged that the expulsion in abeyance grant ended some time ago, but that the idea of that program has been expanded to include all offenses, not just for drugs and alcohol. In fact, in 2013-14, and this year up to March 10th, 228 of the 373 expelled students were placed on probation instead of being expelled. The name expulsion in abeyance is still being used, but the expansion of the now defunct program to include all offenses has not been reflected in policy. Your informal decisions should not be allowed to replace policy. Wolfmeyer stated that the board chose probation over expulsion to avoid expelling a student for a one-time offense. I believe that the records of the 228 students would show a trail of referrals and suspensions that preceded what you might want to call a one-time offense. There is no listing for expulsions of students who are expelled after their fourth suspension, or is that policy now defunct too? I don't know why this board is so reluctant to see the truth or to tell us the truth about much of anything. You vote on expulsions and revocations of expulsions at every meeting. Why can't you include the number of each as part of the minutes? The data I received about expulsion caused me to draw a few conclusions. Again, expulsion is not a viable solution without summer school and probably night school. Summer school is the only justifiable consequence for expulsion and actually the only credible opportunity for students to make up credits. Of the 373 expulsions, 43 were kindergarten through fourth grade. 37 of them were in the abeyance program, so they were not expelled. The first thing you should do is to come up with a better consequence than expulsion or probation for children this young. Not surprisingly, 249 of the expulsions were for 7th through 10th graders, with 81 for 9th grade. Clearly, that is the group that needs special attention. I found it interesting and a bit bewildering that comparatively few juniors and seniors were expelled. 128 expulsions were for drugs or physical fighting. The length of expulsion time varied so much that it is difficult to draw conclusions as to the justification for the lack of consistency. I believe that legitimate lengths of expulsion are impossible without summer school. An extensive change in your discipline policies for referrals, suspensions, and expulsions is greatly needed. This time, please seek the advice and opinions of teachers. Classroom disruptions continue to take too much learning time, and really, I would like to see you think in terms of something besides expulsions. Those aren't the best consequences, but they need to be out of the classroom and kept from disrupting the classroom. Thank you.
Terry Knapp.
Terry Knapp. At the last board meeting, I thought, maligned by council for bringing up Lee Wenger and supporting the removal of his ban from the district. At that time, council chose to outline for the Board of Education, I guess, I don't know who they were outlining it for, the offense that Mr. Wenger supposedly incurred back 5 years ago. If you know anything about this, what does the term expunged mean? Mr. Wenger went to court and entered into a court agreement, and within a year, his record was expunged. He has no record. Obviously, you're carrying around in your pocket. I doubt that you even know Mr. Wenger or his family, or that you really investigated this on your own. I think it's ridiculous that he remains banned from the school district. I mean, it's just unbelievable that the court could expunge this. The record doesn't even exist, and we continue to beat this man up and his family. Another thing you should be aware of, you have a document before you that I FOIA'd, and I'm not going to go through it because I know you don't want this congregation of people out here sickened by what's in here, but it's basically 10 charges against 10 different people sexually related. These students were all expelled, supposedly, but 6 of them were under abeyance, so they didn't serve any penalty for these sexual assaults or trysts or whatever you want to call in our public schools. The 3 of them went to the safe school down at Woodruff, and so they weren't expelled, really. They just continued on with school. And the second one on the page, if you look at it closely, this person missed all of the fall and spring semester and came back and was assigned to go to Quest School and was merely put ahead from 7th grade to 8th grade without taking any classes, according to what I received in the FOIA. Also on this FOIA, in D it says, date proving that police were notified and action taken. There is no contacting of the police department. For example, the night the lady and the man spoke about their daughter here, it says clearly in the law that the board president should have told the superintendent to tell the police department about that particular incident, not Mr. Dolinsky. Mr. Dolinsky is not the police department. Our police department, we don't have one. You know, I don't know if you think you're turning it over to the police department, but these gentlemen that work here now are not policemen anymore. They are simply agents of the district, you know, in charge of crowd control. So you're delinquent by not turning these over to the police department. That's my opinion. I've turned that over to the state's attorney. I know he's probably dragging his feet a little bit on it, but he should be on top of this. The gentleman who was at the
Yeah,
buzzer?
that's your 3 minutes.
Thank you. I'll bring the drug stealing up later.
David Commonday.
Good evening. I came in because I understand you're considering potential cuts in the funding of the arts in the district, or arts education in the district. I have literally decades of experience in working in the arts with young people, from high school, in fact, often younger than high school, through college, and of course with professionals. My experience has been that engagement with the arts has been part and parcel and deeply embedded in the fabric of wonderful lives of amazingly accomplished and productive citizens fellow citizens in the United States. I've been astonished at the influence that engagement with the arts has had on each of their lives. Now, these days, the evidence mounts for the value and the literal statistics which support the benefits of engagement with arts from the earliest age in education. The evidence is there. In fact, the evidence is to the point of becoming taken for granted. Well, we understand arts are good. We all like the arts. So isn't that wonderful? And our hearts are warmed when we hear this story or that story about a person who rises from difficult circumstances through engagement in dance or music or in visual arts. Those stories really are only part of the entire picture. Those stories entail individual lives, but collectively, what we're talking about is growing the next generation. It's very important. I understand the importance of science, technology, engineering, and math. I understand the core STEM. What's missing is arts in that. As Yo-Yo Ma likes to say, STEM to STEAM. You add arts to this equation. Now, I've traveled literally around the world. My experience with youth orchestras in this country was expanded when I was invited by the Singapore Ministry of Education to come and consult with them in the management of youth orchestras. But those conversations were not just about what I thought. I had the opportunity to observe their annual Singapore Youth Festival, in which they have youth music ensembles from all of the schools, every single school, performing. And every other year, each program performs on an international basis. Now, the government of Singapore pays for arts education as part of the core. Singapore is not famous for its dancers and its musicians and its visual artists, as great as they may be. It's famous for its accomplishment as a nation which is outperforming all of its neighbors in Southeast Asia. So this is a government which is committed to the arts as a core element in education, not something that's extra, along with everything else, and it just proves the positive effects of the arts in education. Thank you for considering this. Thank you.
Desiree Compton.
Good evening. My name is Desiree Compton. I am here to speak on behalf of my former teachers who wanted me to support the PSA. My name is Desiree Compton. I graduated co-valedictorian of Peoria High School in May 2011, and I recently graduated from Jackson State University. And this evening I would like to reflect and thank those who helped make my undergraduate matriculation possible. I have thrived as a young scholar and owe much of my success to a number of people, including the teachers, faculty, staff, classmates, and beliefs established in my hometown. As a child, I played 4 instruments. I played the alto saxophone for 7 years, the tenor for 3, the violin for 10, and the piano for 3. And as a very active participant in the performing arts in Peoria schools, I constantly performed. I had the pleasure of performing in the ISH Solo and Ensemble, the Peoria Jazz All-Stars, Bradley University's High School Honors Band, Mid-State 6, IMEA Concert Band, as well as travel to different parts of the nation with some of those other organizations. And from a young age, I learned professionalism, how to dress, how to speak, and how to act as a young performer and as a young musician. And those skills also transitioned into my ability to multitask, and that has taught me the importance of balance between academia, artistry, and personal interests. As a product of the arts program, I thrived as a college student. I was in several honor societies, the W.E. Du Bois Honors College. I mentored other young ladies. I volunteered at the local hospital. I also became a Project Safe peer health educator. And I also continue to enjoy the arts. I immersed myself in the arts. Me and my friends would also go to concerts. And from my time as an artist, as a musician, I enjoyed I had the opportunity to meet Poet Laureate Nikki Giovanni, director Spike Lee, and photographer and civil rights activist Doris Derby. And my point in sharing my undergraduate experience is really just to show and acknowledge how the Peoria Preparatory School for the Arts, or PSA, has helped me as a young adult. I've learned professionalism, time management, and just a true appreciation for artistry. And I am successful not only because I'm a scholar, but because I'm a musician. So thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Carrie Conton.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Carrie Conton, and I am a junior at Peoria High School. The reason why I came here today is to express concern for the state of the fine arts at Peoria High School. A proposition was made to combine the two orchestra classes and to get rid of the music focus. I understand the importance of the district's budget, but the separation of the orchestras and the music focus classes are a necessity in our schools. My entire life, I've been surrounded by music. I've been playing the violin since kindergarten at Roosevelt. But I did not truly start getting into music until I entered high school. My freshman year of high school, I had Music Focus 1. The skills that I learned there have helped me through some very difficult auditions. The most recent being on January 2015 for the 2015 All-State Music Festival. Preparing for this audition took 2.5 months of intensive practice. I would stay up till 3 in the morning practicing. My mom could testify to that. I wasn't getting enough sleep. I was losing my hair, and I was juggling my schoolwork and other after-school activities. I was able to use the school's practice rooms and my advisory period and my concert orchestra rehearsal time and my music focus classes to shave some of that time from my schoolwork. That gave me 2 extra hours I can have dedicated to schoolwork and other activities. The reason why I say all this is because my concert orchestra is special to me. The people in my concert orchestra have a higher degree of understanding. Therefore, the music that we play has a higher degree of difficulty than the lower orchestra. Whenever I see difficult passages in my high school orchestra, I understand those passages and I learn from them, and I use them whenever I have other rehearsals for my youth symphony. My music focus class gave me a deeper understanding of theory. In our class, we learn the application of theory along with theory itself. Students can connect and have an intelligent conversations about music as long as also learning how to play it. This is something that no other school can do. When I leave here tonight, I implore you to think of the facts I presented to you today. Music is a powerful form of expression and is desperately needed in America's schools. Peoria High is unique in what it offers, and it is because of the arts that Peoria has continued to make history. Thank you.
Thank you. Bernard Taylor.
I too am here to urge you not to cut the fine arts and music budget for the schools. I'm fully aware of the great things that are happening at Peoria High School and all the advancements that have been made in the music and drama program there. I think if you look at the whole picture, I think there's maybe 3 things that are very important. One of them is the beauty that the students are creating, you know. And that beauty, whether it's a symphony that's well done, or it's a play, or a mural that's well drawn, is very important, not only for the students and their participation, but it's also important for the community as a whole. Secondly, the fine arts program, music programs, do a lot of nurturing for our students, and also they learn to critically think, and I think that's very important. And finally, I think maybe most important is that the music and fine arts program give the children an alternative to the Peoria lifestyle, street lifestyle that we often read about in the paper. So for a lot of the reasons, I think that I urge you not to diminish the budget for music and fine arts. Thank you.
Thank you. Christine Payton.
My name's Christine Payton. I too am here to represent the PSA program. My daughter chose the PSA program to go to. You cut it, next year, Central will just be another school. PSA offers them a lot. My daughter has learned far more in her music studies than I ever had with just a choir class in my high school. You know, today, music can be everything to these kids. You're limiting them if you don't keep the programs. I mean, it's no different than any of the sports programs. You know, how many professional football, basketball players do you have compared to who's the next Mariah Carey out there? Any of them could be anything. We just have to give them the opportunity to continue that and try. Thank you.
Thank you. Sherry Woodcock.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Sherry Woodcock. My son, Hunter Woodcock, is a freshman at Peoria Central. He plays the trumpet in the band and has been playing since he was in 5th grade at Sterling Middle School. When Hunter was getting ready to start high school, one of the things I told him was get involved in school, do something you enjoy, and have fun. Make the most of it because it goes fast. You see, Hunter was bullied in middle school. So we were looking for ways to keep him engaged and loving school. And he's found that with band. And we've been so encouraged by Miss Shepard and all of the instructors and teachers and the friends he has made in his overall experience. All of the arts instructors and teachers really do a great job of encouraging and fostering a love of the arts. These teachers have a big responsibility to fulfill, and when we continue to cut programs and eliminate positions, we make it very difficult for those programs to be successful. Can you imagine the disappointment and discouragement Hunter would have had to find out that because of program cuts, he wouldn't have the opportunity to continue his trumpet playing? You see, while he enjoys playing sports, that is not his God-given talent. Each and every student in this school district deserves to have the same opportunities to pursue what they truly love and what will give them the best possible high school experience with the best instructors, coaches, teachers, whether it be athletics, academics, or the arts. We all hear on the radio about how good our sports teams are and the scores of those competitions. It's too bad we can't do the same for the arts. You have some outstanding students involved in arts, and those abilities must be nurtured and directed by dedicated staff specializing in those programs. I would encourage each and every one of the school board members to attend an arts event to see just what I'm talking about. Just last week was the PSA Spring Pops concert at Peoria High. If you didn't have a chance to attend, one word, wow. This young lady, she's amazing. She is amazing. I can tell you after watching just one performance like this, you will start thinking of ways to build the arts program, not cut it. All you have to do is Google fine arts and you'll find many articles that talk about the vital part fine arts plays in the students' success in school and life. Hunter and I listen every week to Mr. Elliott's weekly announcements, and the recurring theme is attendance and no excuses for getting the job done. Did you know that students who study arts are 4 times more likely to be recognized for academic achievement and 3 times more likely to be awarded for school attendance? Arts and music programs are mandatory in countries that rank consistently among the highest for math and science scores: Japan, Hungary, and the Netherlands. New research shows that not only does music improve skills in math and reading, but it promotes creativity, social development, personality adjustment, and self-worth. Just go out and Google it, and you'll find all kinds of information. Thank you for everything.
Thank you. Do board members have any responses to audience comments? Reverend Butler?
Yes, I would like for Dr. Lathan to respond to what we have heard and others are saying about cutting the fine arts program at Peoria High School. How does the budget issue that we're up against, the financial issues, impact that program?
First, I want to just recognize Carrie. Didn't you receive an award during spring break? Can you share, come back up, so you did an outstanding job, because you have to brag on yourself, because once again, it is something positive that's happening in our district. So this young lady was out in California?
Yes.
Tell them about your award.
I went to California to compete in a science fair for National Society of Black Engineers. I won first for the oral presentation and first for the poster presentation for the high school division.
So not only an artist, but an academic student. So I think we did recognize you in remarkable times, but when you were there, I was trying to get Dr. Kennedy's attention. I said, she won the award. So congratulations.
Thank you very much.
On behalf of the district.
Thank
So we're
you.
very proud
I
of
got
you.
your letter, too.
You got my letter? Good. Put it in your scrapbook. In 10 years, I want you to read it again. When you're doing something else great. But just to go, and I want to respond not only to Carrie, but also the other speakers. When we look at all of the schools in our district and we look at enrollment, especially at the high school level, registration is driven by enrollment. And so when students register for courses, and that was why we always do the big push in January, and then we went to online registration, and then high school students, you go in and meet with your counselors. And so if you're here, if I'm not repeating what has happened in your school, let us know. So then we take a look, once we look at the numbers, we look at projected enrollment for our K-8 schools, or our primary schools, middle schools, and we look at that by grade level. And then we look at high schools, and it's based on what the students actually register for. And so based on those numbers, we start looking at how many teachers will we need in sections of a particular class. And so I want to just kind of share with you some current numbers, and then to talk about, yes, we were proposing to combine some classes for next year, but it's based on the numbers that we have in front of us. And I think, Ms. Johnson, you have some of those numbers. So let me just give you some current enrollment so you'll understand kind of the process. And I wanted to share, Ms. Goldbein is probably gone, and also Ms. Morris, that there are other people that use numbers a lot. The superintendent and all of the cabinet members, we use numbers and math on a daily basis, especially during tough budget times. But for example, someone mentioned Math Focus. So for Math Focus currently this year, for Math Focus 1, 2, and 3, we have a total of 21 students registered for that class. 9 students in Math Focus 1, 10 students in Math Focus 2, and 2 students. Is this, music. What am I got stuck on math.
On the bone.
I don't have math on the brain, because it took a lot of math to get these answers though. But Music Focus 1 has 9 students, Music Focus 2 has 10 students, Music Focus 3 has 2 students. So Carrie, tell me what class you're registered in right now.
Music Focus 3?
Music Focus 3, so you're one of the 2 students that's registered. And what's the other class you mentioned?
Next year I'm going to do Music Focus 4.
Music Focus 4, and we don't even have that being offered. So if it's 2 students right now, Music Focus 3, and you're registered for next year, so you understand that means there's only 1 or 2 other, you and the other person would be the only students in Music Focus 4. So we can't have a section of just Music Focus 4, so it would need to be, if we held that class, it would be combined with Music Focus 3, I'm assuming. So now, look at your sheet, Ms. Johnson, and tell me, is that how we did it?
Correct, we're combining those. And
So-
the teacher said we could combine them and it would still get the quality of education they were getting.
So those are processes where when we look at the numbers and some things we have to combine, we go back to the school, to the building principal. We always start with the building principal, and then there's a conversation with teachers. Now, I will be honest with you, there are some times that teachers and principals say, no, that's not going to work, but we have to also look at, and we talked a couple board meetings ago about increasing class sizes. So if I have a math class that's over, let's say 30, and we need to open up another math class, well, I can't have a class sitting with just 10 students. And so then we have to share teachers between schools sometimes. So it's another class. I want to say orchestra.
Orchestra and band.
And band. Right now, there are 19 students enrolled in band. 19 students. Mixed ensemble has 18 students.
That's not true,
Okay, well, I'm going by the list that I have.
That's wrong information.
Well,
At a Skyward.
It's coming out of Skyward, so it means somebody put it wrong in Skyward, because what we do is we pull from Skyward. So what do you have for enrollment for next year?
I'm not the band director, ma'am, but
I'm not speaking to you, sir, I'm speaking to Ms. Johnson, who has the list.
Next year, we have 15 kids who have registered for band at
Okay.
Peoria High for next year.
And so that's what you pulled out of Skyward.
Yes.
So we go by the numbers that we have, and so if whatever's in Skyward, that's the numbers that we use. But that's how the decision-making process, we go through and look. And then we also present a projected number of teachers to the principals, and then they work with moving their master schedule and doing that. I don't know what that.
He said it was my fault, I said, okay.
Okay, that's
just
fine.
order.
But
I was asking for
overall,
order in the
we're
audience.
talking about the overall process that we use. And then, once again, we give schools their projected enrollment. But we do that by all schools. It's not necessarily cutting a program, but there are some classes that will not make. And so that's the process that we utilize. There are some teachers that will have to travel between two schools. And that's happening now. So it's not something new that has not occurred in the district probably for, I don't even know how many years, but there will be teachers that will be shared between schools. Also, can I go back to a few other points that were, okay.
Let's,
Okay.
are there other comments about the Peoria High program?
Yes,
I would just like to say that I had a son who was very active in the music program when he was in high school, all 4 years, and in grade school. And I do understand what you're saying about the arts, because I think that was the most influential experience he had, was in music. He was an athlete, he was in student government, but he made, the lifelong friends that he made and the influence that were most important during his high school career were through the arts. So I understand exactly what you're saying. I know how important they are. There are a lot of kids who aren't cut out to be athletes. They aren't cut out to be in Key Club and things like that, but if they find their niche in the arts, then we should have that available. But you have to understand also at the same time, we have to look at, as Dr. Lathan is saying, look at the different classes. One of the things that disturbs me is I don't want anyone to get the impression that this board has ever talked about cutting the fine arts program at Peoria High, because I am not aware that that has ever even come up. So I just want that out there, that we have not considered cutting fine arts. I think this whole board has spoken many times about how important the arts are. But when we are looking at some of the budget problems we have asked them to put everything on the table and give us the costs, and then we're going to have to make some tough decisions, and we'll try and make those decisions that are in the best interest for as many students as we can possibly help. So I just wanted to say that I do understand the importance, because I had a son who went through that process, and that's what I missed most when he left high school. It wasn't the athletics and that kind of thing, but it was the arts things that he was in. So, Mr. Cloyd?
Thank you, President Wolfmeyer. I received a large number of emails, and I've responded to all but 2 of them, and they came in late, and I didn't get a chance to do that. And I know there's a lot of passion associated with this subject, and rightly so. I was in marching concert and stage band at Richwoods for 4 years, and state music competition, and it was wonderful, and it was important, and I still play at my age, believe it or not, and that's one of the few things you can do. And still be involved and actually be competent at it. So let's say this, the message was received, but we're facing some very difficult things. And in every one of the emails I sent back, I said, would you please communicate this to the members of the state legislature, because we are suffering at the hands of a legislature that has done many things over a number of years that are detrimental to the educational process we're trying to provide at the direction and legal obligation of the state legislature. In other words, they require us to do things, and then they don't pay for it. And they require us to do things, and then they take money away that they promised us, totaling close to $19 million over the last 5 years. The state legislature has responsibility for the funding for a school district like Peoria to a large extent, and they are not doing their job, and they are not being responsible. So please take that passion and get a hold of your members of the legislature and communicate to them the same way you've communicated to me. That's number one. Number two is, what is it the arts community can do on an ad hoc basis or an informal basis? outside of the schools to embrace some of these students who really have the talent and the drive to become either professionals or someone really able to take this and make it a lifelong pursuit. What can you do as a group to bring together some resources from outside the schools and come alongside us and help us? I don't know what form that would take, but I certainly think there's enough talent in this community, if you look at all of the organizations that provide music and arts, that they could be something that could do that in a way that I think could have an impact. So I would encourage you to try and see what could be done there. Thank you.
Mr. Crawford?
I was just going to add, among other things, I think the arts, you understand why people excel in the classroom for those who are involved in arts, because it teaches you focus, patience, and the whole idea that if you're frustrated in learning something new, you keep at it and teaches you perseverance, all of which translates well over into the classroom. I too support the arts. I was involved in madrigals and choir at Richwoods, so my best experience as well. So when arts comes up on the table under the auspices of a budget cut or whatever, it's not an easy subject to tackle. Otherwise, I would just second the comments of every other board member made up here, including Mr. Floyd's. Got to call the legislature, and you got to think about these issues when you go to the voting booth as well.
Mr. Bateman?
One thing I would like us to kind of look at, especially in the areas where we have music theory classes with very small enrollment numbers, especially, last thing I would ever want to see is us pull the rug out from underneath a student that clearly excels in that. So is there anything we could do in terms of looking at dual enrollment opportunities, whether it be through ICC, Bradley University, something along those lines, to where we have small enrollment sizes, we can still support and provide opportunities for such talented students to further their education and not diminish the path they're already on or sell that short. Just something kind of outside the box thinking in terms of how we could address some of these types of issues.
We have various ensembles within the schools, correct? I mean, the jazz ensemble, for instance, is really fun to go see because they mix with all the professional musicians and play themselves. Talk about even getting credits for involvement in ensembles like that, so there can be some of that extra the high level classroom instruction through participation in those kinds of groups.
Mrs. Wolfmeyer? Yes, I was having a discussion with someone this afternoon as well because of the many emails that we got regarding the fine arts program. And the question was asked that when responding to perhaps some of these individuals, to ask them the organizations or the events that they're involved in, again, how will the community become involved and also do some things differently or do more? So I know we have talked about the Peoria Symphony Orchestra, just the things that we do with that group. But again, maybe as Mr. Cloyd, you say you don't know how that would look, but I think that's tonight is where we put that challenge out there to the community to say, again, we need those who are thinking outside of the box and those who maybe now will step it up or go a little extra because of the need in the community from students whom we heard from tonight.
Anyone else? Did you have a couple other things you wanted to
Yes, I just want to
address?
go back to, as it relates to contacting the police and reports. We do follow a process, because I don't want the community to walk away thinking that we don't report. If you're not, I can give you a prime example. If you've paid attention to the news over the past couple of weeks, we've had some incidents that have been reported through the media. So that lets you know, and it says it started with a contact from District 150. So when there's a situation, we do contact the people that we need to contact to conduct the investigations. But I just didn't want anyone to think that we're not following protocol and procedure as it relates to making those necessary contacts.
Thank you. Anything else? Okay, that brings us to information items. The first one is purchase orders over $2,500. Are there any questions for Mr. Wilcoxon?
Just for clarification, there were a number of large $15,000 to $27,000 expenses that were paid that I asked some questions about via email and that Mr. Wilcoxon provided, if I may. Thank you. And one of them was to Dewberry Architects for $15,000, and that was focused towards the renovations at Jamison for the Peoria Adult Transition Program. Another one I asked some questions about was $17,000 to Hodges, and that was our legal fees for the month ending February 28th. $21,600 on Prime Source. These were consulting services for Mr. Rayner from April 13th to the 17th and April 20th to the 24th on language and reading. And then the last one I had a question about was $18,247.12 for something called Zonar. I'd never heard of before. It looked kind of funny. And that was actually the software update and annual license renewal for the GPS license renewal for the transportation used for tracking our buses. So if anybody was curious when they looked through it, there's where some of those major expenses went to and what they were for.
Thank you. Any other questions on the purchase orders this evening? Okay. Reports of requests under the Freedom of Information Act and status of such requests. Dr. Lathan?
Since our last board meeting report on April 27th, 2015, we received 6 new Freedom of Information Act requests. Of these new requests, 5 were filled. There were 4 pending requests noted on the April 27th, 2015 board report. 3 were filled. We received 49 requests for this calendar year.
Thank you. That brings us to the consent agenda. First on that list is gifts to the school districts. Reverend Butler, would you summarize those for us?
Yes, Mrs. Wolfmeyer's, the gift to the school district for this meeting totaled $13,559.15. Year-to-date, the total is $62,969.98. And the proposed action is that the Board of Education accept the following donations and letters of appreciation be sent to the donors. Again, for this meeting, $500 by Heather Armstead to Washington Gifted Chess Club, supplies valued at $7,009.15 by Office Max for student use, scrap metal valued at $50 by O'Brien Steel to Woodruff Career and Tech, and $6,000 by an anonymous donor to be used for MCA equipment and instruction materials.
Thank you. The rest of the items of the consent agenda tonight are the payment of bills, the Human Resources Report. The proposed action is the appointment, employment, compensation, performance, resignation, retirement, or discharge of an employee, payment for travel, field trip approval, Washington Gifted Middle School and Keller Primary. The proposed action is that the Board of Education approve the field trip for the Destination Imagination team from Washington Gifted Middle School and Keller Primary to compete in the global finals at the University of Tennessee in Knoxville, Tennessee. Students will be participating in this event Tuesday, May 19th, 2015 through Sunday, May 24th, 2015, chaperoned by parents and coaches. The per student cost is funded through fundraising. Number 6 is the canvass of the election returned. The proposed action is that the canvass of votes for 2 members to the Board of Education, each from District 3, as presented by the election commissions for the election held on April 7th, 2015, be accepted. Item 7 is the approval of the settlement agreement with Unit Number 114, Peoria Federation of Support Staff, Security Policemen's Benevolent Association. The proposed action is that the Board of Education approve the attached settlement agreement. This settlement agreement is entered into by the Board of Education of Peoria School District Number 150 and the Peoria Federation of Support Staff, Security Policemen's Benevolent Association, Unit Number 114, as complete resolution to all claims and controversies arising from the grievance dated March 19th, 2015, is related to staffing at board meetings and other extra events. Number 8 is the approval of the settlement agreement and general release with the Peoria Federation of Teachers, Local 780. The proposed action is that the Board of Education approve the attached settlement agreement and general release. This settlement agreement is entered into by the Board of Education of Peoria School District Number 150 and the Peoria Federation of Teachers, IFT, AFT, AFL-CIO Local 780 as complete resolution to all claims and controversies arising from the grievance dated January 26, 2015 is related to the involuntary transfer of curriculum and instruction teaching staff to classroom teaching positions. And number 9 is the approval of a resignation agreement, Bethany Newsome. The proposed action is that the Board of Education approve the resignation agreement of Bethany Newsome effective May 12, 2015. Are there any of these items a board member would like pulled for a separate vote? Mr. Bateman?
Yes, item 6, please.
Any others? Could I have a motion and a second on the consent agenda except for item 6?
Second.
Are there any questions or comments on the items? I would like to say on the canvass of election returns, congratulations to Mrs. Jackson and Mr. Adler as being those that were elected and will be starting to join us at executive session at our next meeting. There any other comments or questions? Would you call the roll?
Mrs. Costick? Aye. Mr. Crawford?
Aye.
Mr. Bateman?
Aye.
Mrs. Ross?
Aye.
Mr. Coyle?
Aye.
Mrs. Butler?
Aye.
Mrs. Wolfmeyer?
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays, motion carries.
Could I have a motion and second on number 6, the canvass of the election return?
So moved.
Second.
Was there any other question on that? Would you call the roll?
Mrs. Costick? Aye. Mr. Crawford?
Aye.
Mr. Bateman?
Abstain.
Mrs. Ross?
Aye.
Mr. Coyle?
Aye.
Mrs. Butler?
Aye.
Mrs. Wolfmeyer?
Aye.
6 ayes, 1 nays, motion carries.
Thank you. That brings us to the deliberation agenda, which is our discipline to start with.
Item number 10, expulsions. Proposed action that the expulsions listed on the report dated May 12, 2015 be approved as presented.
Second.
Would you call the roll?
Mrs. Costick? Aye. Mr. Crawford?
Aye.
Mr. Bateman?
Aye.
Mrs. Ross? Aye. Mr. Coyle?
Aye.
Mrs. Butler?
Aye.
Mrs. Wolfmeyer?
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays, motion carries.
Students expelled by the board are referred to by number, thereby ensuring privacy. Board action concerning the students has been decided in executive session. Item number 11, revocation of expulsions held in abeyance. Proposed action, that the revocation of expulsions held in abeyance listed on the report dated May 12, 2015 be approved as presented.
Second.
Would you call the roll?
Mrs. Costick? Aye. Mr. Crawford?
Aye.
Mr. Bateman?
Aye.
Mrs. Ross? Aye. Mr. Coyle?
Aye.
Mrs. Butler?
Aye.
Mrs. Wolfmeyer?
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays, motion carries.
Item 12 is the honorable dismissal of full-time educational support employees. The proposed action is that the Board of Education authorize the administration to honorably dismiss the full-time educational support personnel employees named herein effective June 30th, 2015 pursuant to Section 10-23.5 of the School Code 105 ILCS 5/10-23.5. Could I have a motion and a second?
Second.
Are there any questions or comments on this? Just call the roll.
Question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
The total number of employees involved here?
14.
14, thank you.
In your packet, they were on the,
They are listed in the regular packet.
the page, it'll be the second page. Page 54. Page 54.
Any other questions or comments? Would you call the roll?
Mrs. Costick? Aye. Mr. Crawford?
Aye.
Mr. Bateman?
Aye.
Mrs. Ross? Aye. Mr. Coyle?
Aye.
Mrs. Butler?
Aye.
Mrs. Wolfmeyer?
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays, motion carries.
That brings us to presentation and suggestions by board members. Are there any presentations or suggestions this evening?
I do.
Reverend Butler?
Yeah, it's just my thoughts on some things in reflecting over our board governance. So under the suggestion part of this meeting, I would like to suggest the following. Recently, board members have been asked by some of the community to restructure district leadership and administration. I am suggesting that as we hear that request, consider how it would affect the current increase we have seen in student engagement, academic growth, professional development, and facility improvements in the district. We, the board, led the Peoria Education Program, and we have seen the results of our decisions over programs, finances, facilities, and staff. We do not exist apart from any of the operations of this district. So do we join in with others and accept the indictment of being irresponsible, failing trustees of this education program? My answer is no. I have worked with most of you during my 8 years on the board. I see in your governance the elected responsibility to aid our students in their preparation to be participants in higher education and career-ready employees. So when our constituents challenge us to turn around or stop progress, let's share with them the evidence of this district's progress at the mandate of this board to the current administration to improve instruction and curriculum and to be fiscally responsible. If we stay true to our governance of educating the children, District 150 will become the education program this community desires. Once again, we have become a divided community over school issues. We as a board can help to heal this community. Many of us share a faith and personal values that calls us to be true, honest, and just in our daily matters, to think rightly and to be wise in our ways. I challenge you not to forget those values in your leadership of this education program. You know where we've been, how far we've come, and where we need to go. Let us proceed with courage, truth, understanding, wisdom, humbleness, and great hope for our students and staff.
Thank you. Are there any other presentations or suggestions by the board? Mr. Cloyd?
Yes, thank you, President Wolfmeyer. As regards the process of making decisions about expulsions, and I won't get into the details, but as I understand it, each of those documents that we receive is based on a recommendation of the school itself as to what action is to be taken. And just as an example, in the package we got for the discipline committee this week, we had over 600 pages of documents, averaging about a little over 40 pages per individual on those issues, and it takes time and effort to go through those and read and understand them, and those decisions are not taken lightly. That's number one. Number two, as regards the policy committee, we had a meeting this past week, and we were looking at the implementation of the new bullying and harassment policy and what it will take to do the proper professional development for that. And along with that, one of the things we wanted to do was to look at policy 720, which deals with, in effect, a definition of what bullying is. The Illinois Association of School Boards has a proposed model policy, and we compared the two, our existing 720 and the one that they recommended. And after Ms. Kostick and Mr. Retberg and I worked over that with Ms. Bastian's presence, we concluded that our policy 720 provides a more exacting and useful definition of bullying. And I would ask that the record reflect the fact that we have reviewed the policy and believe that 720, as it exists for District 150, is to be preferred to that was suggested by the Illinois Association of School Boards. And therefore, we won't be recommending any changes in that policy because it is consistent with what we're trying to accomplish on those issues. That's number two. Number three, as it relates to the budget, and I've talked about this before, and I think this is, I like graphs and I do a lot of them. This is just a chart, but this is one I did today. 73% of our costs are employment costs. So if you look at this and say, what are we going to do to address the issues of the budget, and I would pass these along to you. You cannot leave untouched the employment issues, and it's unfortunate, but the truth is that most of what we spend is spent on people, benefits, and the costs associated with them. And as difficult as those decisions are, We can't continue to do what we're doing without recognizing that we have to do some things differently in the future. And no one takes any pleasure in that, and no one certainly sits here and says, just great, this is what I always wanted to do. This is what we don't want to have to do, but it's what we need to do and address these issues. So with that, I would pass that along to you and ask you to just think about what that means in terms of how we do this budget and the strategy that comes out of that. Thank you.
Anyone else? Mrs. Ross?
I wanted to just comment on one of the speakers, maybe Ms. Cruz, spoke about expulsions and how. I wanted to comment on the comment that was made about the expulsions. I think it was Ms. Cruz who spoke about that. I mean, I actually agree that expulsions are, they're ineffective, you know, and so I've said for years we needed to figure out how to manage this process without putting kids out of school, and they do not belong in the classroom. Let me be clear about that, because they're not ready to learn. And so if we were to look at removing those students from the classroom and actually working with them, of course, we can't do it alone. We have to have the community working with us, working with the students to get them ready to go back into the classroom. I don't care what you call it a readiness class or earn your way back or whatever, but expulsions are, in my opinion, ineffective, because whether it's in abeyance, which in my opinion, there's no programming going on alongside of the abeyance, not enough, let's put it like that. And if they're out of school, it's counterproductive. I keep saying either we pay now or pay later. These young people get so far behind, and every one of these expulsions that we do, they're already failing. So somewhere along the way, the ball has been dropped, where they just keep getting passed on and passed on. And we set the policy as far as how long they're expelled. Usually it's 1 year. You may not see it's 1 year, but it's 1 year from the time the infraction happened. Most of them are 1 year. You just don't see that. Now, it could be that they were on some type of administrative probation, and then they had to serve the rest of that year out. But I've been here 13 years, so I know what I'm talking about. That's one of the passions of mine.
10 of them were just expelled for the summer.
Okay.
10 for the summer.
I think we should have summer school too, but my point is, I agree that something needs to be done about that issue.
Thank you. Anyone else? How about committee reports? Mr. Crawford?
Yesterday, Mr. Bateman and I, along with Mr. Wilcoxon, had a meeting with the Red Cross. Wanted to learn a little bit more about this district's role in disaster preparedness and how our facilities are needed in a time of disaster in our community. It was Mr. Bateman had the idea of me with the Red Cross in large part due to the power outages that occurred last winter, where some residents came to our buildings looking for warming shelters. So we had a representative from the Red Cross come and explain to us about their role in such disaster management. In fact, interestingly, they are designated by the state of Illinois as the sole organization for orchestration of mass disaster relief. We're the only state that actually gives the Red Cross that designation. They participate in other disasters, in disaster relief in other states, but in Illinois, they're actually this organization that is specifically designated to orchestrate that mass disaster relief. In any event, generally the Red Cross gets involved when something is to become a shelter, meaning overnight stays. So when we're talking about warming shelters, something that's more temporary, such as during a power outage, we're talking about the local office of the Peoria Emergency Management Association here in Illinois that would be responsible for deciding what facilities are to be used as warming shelters. Typically, the first area or first facility to go to in the event of a power outage, it would be your local fire station. They are set up as the warming shelters. Schools are not. What we did also explore with the Red Cross was updating our agreements with them. The Red Cross representative felt that there were some agreements, but she wasn't quite sure the details of those agreements. And I don't think we could answer them either, but she did basically say that, look, we'd like for you guys to get involved in this. And so we're going to go back, review some of the agreements that we have with the Red Cross and see where we fit in with regard to the needed facilities should issues like this come up again. Otherwise, we also learned a little bit about the Red Cross. A plug for the Red Cross to come into our schools and teach disaster preparedness to our students. Talked about a pillowcase program, teaching students how to stuff all they might need in the event of a disaster, items they might need in a pinch to take with them in the confines of their pillowcase. I don't know, did I cover it all, John?
Well, the last thing I would add to that is Ms. Smith pointed out that when you look at what the Red Cross looks at in terms of their priorities, in terms of activating facilities for shelters or warming centers or things like that, schools fall way down on their list of priorities in terms of how they look at facilities to activate. And the primary reason is because in a lot, especially in disaster relief situations, a lot of times the families are dealing with insurance companies and recovery of goods and things like that, and they need a place for their children to go so that it maintains a normalcy for the kids, as well as continues to give them a set structure in that. So it was a very eye-opening conversation. I think in light of what we had happen earlier in the year and that, one thing we as within the district need to learn to refer people to the appropriate office, and that being the Peoria Emergency Management Office. And then they will work with, and that call can come into, the fire department, the police, and that, but that all gets funneled and directed then towards this Peoria Emergency Management Office. It was unfortunate the gentleman from that office was also scheduled to attend the meeting, but was ill and was unable to attend. But suffice to say, there are definite flow charts, of how this is supposed to cascade, and it was very clear that from the events that happened earlier this year, that those were short-circuited or sidestepped rather than following the normal process, so.
Ms. Costa.
Okay, if the schools are a lower priority as far as safe shelters or whatever, how does the from the top to the first, like the first four?
Well,
It's the fire station, and then what?
For warming centers, they clearly identify the fire stations as that primary source first. And then mass media blast would go out directing people where they need to go. We really didn't get here's who we go to first, here's who we go to second for shelters, but definitely for warming centers, the first one that was identified was fire stations and that.
If anything, the appropriate person to call is the Peoria Emergency Management Office.
Exactly.
In the event of a power outage.
Or even a tornado or something like that goes through, the coordinating agency is the Peoria Emergency Management Office. Mm-hmm. And they will then contact the Red Cross, and jointly they will manage the situation, whatever the situation is. and activate the appropriate facilities, whatever they deem necessary.
Is it possible that because of the situation that occurred with us as far as the school is concerned, is it possible that this is something that we could put in the Remarkable Times, just kind of annotating what that protocol is so that it is out there for people that do not know what the protocol is?
I would, before you do that, though, I would suggest we get local emergency management, give them a call, and make sure that the protocols that were relayed to us are correct. Because again, the representative from that group did not attend this meeting. So you want to make sure that the information we're giving to the public is correct.
Right, absolutely.
I certainly, I'm glad you said that, so be sure to clear that up.
Yeah.
Because I managed the FEMA money in this town for a number of years, and that has to do with emergency management.
Right.
And I don't know that program to be that comprehensive, what you're saying. So we'll see.
The last piece that we had at the meeting was just kind of a discussion with the process of facility naming here in the district. Realize that our policy it currently does not really allow for that, so the policy committee is going to take a look at that. And I believe, Ms. Bastian, you're going to forward that along to Mr. Cloyd for the policy, for Ms. Costick and Mr. Cloyd to take a look at. That's it.
Okay. And Mr. Cloyd?
Policy committee meeting on May 27th.
Okay, thank you. Seeing nothing else, can I have a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Thank you very much.